Good. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Frukoststudion. And we have a packed house today, so thank you so much for coming down. And grab your coffee, grab your bulle, and get ready for some interesting conversation today. I'm Sam Coleman. I'm the head of an organization called the High Coast International Hub. I also work as a chief marketing officer for a company called Stringo. You'll hear more about that soon. And we're invited by the Örnsköldsvik Industry Group to curate and also moderate this discussion today. And of course, that's part of Frukoststudion. That's a really cool initiative that's been done by the commune to bring interesting topics. My thing is internationalism. So I, of course, jag just dom, så kan inte prata svenska med allihopa här. But I speak in English and I come from abroad. And I fell in love with the High Coast. And what I want to bring to the High Coast from my experience and passion for getting accepted and having you as neighbors is bringing international perspectives and ideas here. So the idea behind this particular Frukoststudion, it's a series. We always bring international ideas and try to localize them as perspectives. We did the green economy with Emil Källström, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we're going to talk about something that I have a real passion for. I think that one of the great things you can do in life is to help people unlock their human potential. So we try to do that with our organization. We have some of our board members here. We have some of our ambassadors here. And we try to kind of unlock that potential and make it work for Örnsköldsvik. So today's conversation is called the New Leadership. Going to the slide. What does the new leadership mean, and what's that all about? Hold on a second. Yep, there we go. The new leadership is an idea that the rules have dramatically changed for all of us. It's changed for the labor market, but it means that the expectations of people really went through a transformative stage. That was the pandemic, but it started before the pandemic. Next slide, please. And what happened was there was something called the Great Resign, the Great Resignation, the Great Quit. Have you guys, anybody heard these terms before? Okay, a couple people have. That was an idea that was coined by a man named Anthony Klotz, a guy who'd been tracking labor statistics for 100 years. He was an expert statistician, and he noticed a trend. And it started before the pandemic. It started in 2017, according to his analysis. People decided to leave their jobs in a higher statistical way than they had before. There's always a baseline. There's always an amount of people quitting and wanting to do things different. Okay, that's fine. There's an organic baseline. However, he started to notice something unusual. And then it went ballistic. Then it became something that we haven't seen in 100 years. 40% of people reported that they wanted to leave their jobs. Why is that? Many reasons. We'll get to that. And a lot of people said, well, the Great Resign is going to be over because here comes inflation, recession, and you're worried about your job. But guess what? That hasn't happened yet. Of course, it's dropped somewhat from that peak. There was a point when it was 70% of respondents were saying, I want to change my job. Yeah, sure. Didn't mean they did it, but they fantasized about it. And how difficult is that for motivation? If you're running a company and 70% of your people are thinking, yeah, there's somewhere else I'd rather be, there's something else I'd rather do, very difficult. Had a big challenge on us. Next slide. Now, this hasn't stopped, even though the numbers have gone down slightly. But according to the McKinsey report and also the World Economic Association, these numbers are still pretty high. But what I find fascinating here is let's look at these. What's the number one reason why people change their jobs? I'm going to call out people because I like to be kind of interactive with this thing. What's the reason why people leave their jobs? Thank you. Of course, most people think, I can get a better job, I can make more money. And in a situation where you have high inflation, actually one of the best ways you can get a great raise, 20 to 30%, get a new job. Because then you have a better negotiation situation. Your job that you have now, it's incremental. You get a new job, you can negotiate. So number one, of course, is salary. But another big one is the lack of career advancement. You get stuck in a job and you want to change. Now, these are ones that will probably always be here, for sure. But look at this. Look at the next 8. Uncaring and uninspiring leaders. Interesting. Lack of meaningful work. Okay. Unsustained work expectations. Unreliable and unsupported people at work. Lack of work flexibility, lack of support, of health and well-being, non-inclusive. You see, all these things here, from these 2 big things here, on over, are leadership. It's the lack of leadership can do everything to change this, but they don't. And why don't they? And that's a question that I find fascinating. I think leadership is this incredible art form of life that we under-realize. And our leaders, people who take the time to develop people, people who take the time to run companies and make them profitable, to give a platform for people to get jobs, they're my heroes. So this became a kind of a question in my mind. What is the new leadership? Next slide. And I realized it comes down to 3 basic things that we're going to talk about today. Values, trust, and vulnerability. So these 3 speakers today, they have no questions in advance. I don't believe in that. I want them to be spontaneous. I hope we can stick them with something like, ooh, I don't know, because that's more interesting for you. We're going to open up questions for you. That's going to make it even more uncomfortable. Don't worry, they run companies. They make a lot of money. It's okay, they can take it. But these leaders are people that I know on different levels, and I'll be transparent about that, and I respect. Let me introduce them today. You can give them a little applause after I give them an introduction. Karin Johnson is a person that I got to know, I guess about a year and a half ago. She was one of the first companies we approached to be a sponsor. I respected her company. Her company is Rise Processum. She is one of the biotech centers in Europe. And she has a number of young, ambitious, and intelligent people. And to manage an international workforce with high skills that anybody would love to grab is a testament to her leadership. And that's why she's here today. Give her a little applause there. Petter Sundström. Petter is one of the first guys that I called when I got to Örnsköldsvik because I had so much respect for what he does with magazines and communication. I looked at his magazine. He's award-winning. He is the voice of the High Coast here, trust me. He's, you know, when you see the communication things that he puts out, that's actually one of the first ways that people get to know about the High Coast. And I called Petter, and we had a coffee. We worked together in a few different companies, the one I'm with now, in fact. He was instrumental in helping us with the High Coast International Hub. But he represents the creative industry, and that's another very vulnerable section. So you see we've got kind of high science and biotech over here. We've got, you know, we've got the creative community and economy over here. And Petter has managed to grow his company, Devosi, to be a very dynamic communication company in a very unlikely place. For a place like Örnsköldsvik to support a company like Devosi, Härnösand would love to have Devosi. A lot of other cities would love, even Umeå and Sundsvall, for sure. But he does it here, and we're better for it. And his workforce, I'm curious to see how he sees these topics we're going to talk about today. Give him a little round of applause there. And of course, Nina Thelin. Now, to be transparent, Nina and I work together. But the reason why we work together ties into this topic. I was not looking for a job. I was part of the Great Resign. I left my company, I worked for Clavister, and I was super happy working with some of these people out here. But it was time to move on. And when I moved on, I didn't want to just get a job. I wanted to do something meaningful for a while until I realized I liked money again. So I started this foundation with friends, and we got support, and we get support from the commune, which we're very grateful for, Class. But that was my tradition, and I wanted to start a software company, and I have a great idea. And then I met Nina, and Nina was, to me, the embodiment of all those things that I'd always wanted in a leader, never found. And so we just thought we got to work together. So we do work together. That is the reason why she's here. Really, nothing to do with us working together. I really find in her, and I tell her all the time, watch this woman. In 10 years, if she wants to be Prime Minister of Sweden, she can. She's got it all. Trust me. And you'll hear it today for yourself. But these values that we talk about today and ideas, trust me, we see a lot of that in the company that Nina's put up together. Let's give her a round of applause. Good. As I say, I like this to be fun. I'm going to pull people out spontaneously. I hope you don't mind that. If you say, don't talk to me, just put the sign of the Nordland cross, and I will go away like the Dracula that I am. Let's talk about values. Why is that important? A lot of people started to realize that just making money wasn't going to do it. They wanted companies that embodied their values. And you really see this in millennials. You thought that 40% statistic was high? Guess what? 70% for under 35s are looking for a new job. And their number one reason why they want that job, that different job, is because this company doesn't represent my values. Incredible. Incredible. And we need those young people, my God, right? Peter, we need these young women to be coming here and giving their skills. So values are super important. So let's have a conversation about values. Before I get to these guys, I'm going to call out Svante, my new friend. Svante, what would be a value that you absolutely need to have in a company that you work for?
Okay, a bit surprised about that question, but...
That's the idea.
Yeah, but I think the value I would appreciate is that you actually see people and have a good relationship between different people, and that you trust people.
Great answer. Great answer. Because it's not the value of, well, I want to have career advancement and I want to have, I want to know the company's growing and doing good profit levels. Values are really important. And I'm going to start off this question for Nina, because she has very passionate ideas about values. Nina, what would you say is a value to you above all else that has to be in the company culture?
The value of all else, like the most important
Yeah, start
value.
from the top.
I think that the most important thing is that we actually care about each other. That's the most important value. Now
Svante, you can come work for us. You hear this?
No, but it's, it sounds so basic, and it kind of is. But, you can have all these career plans and good salary, but I think that we meet at Stringo every day, and when you enter the door, and if you have a feeling that you actually care about these people and they care about me, I think as human beings, and not only as colleagues or as human beings, I think that's the most important.
And I'll tell you how, and then I'm going to follow up with, well, okay, how do you live that? Tell me how you live that. But I'm going to give a little bit of evidence to that. The minute you walk into the Stringo door, the first thing that impressed me when I went there was that every single person who works at the company is on the wall. And yes, everybody does that. But in one sense, it was so big. It was the whole place. And there's not that many people. There's only 40 people that work there. But it was the first thing you see as you walk in the door. And the first, I was like, wow. And you get your picture taken that first day, and it's up on the wall as long as there's space. As long as there's space, pretty quickly. Give me another example of how you live those values.
No, but I'm going to be very open with this, because I think it's also a very, as a leader, I think it's a responsibility to actually, to make sure that you feel that care, that it's genuine. And if I have a problem with someone, because all the people that work at Stringo are very, very different, and if there is something that I have a problem with, I have to take my responsibility and work with that. So I have this genuine feeling of care. Does it sound too?
Yeah, no. I think it's legitimate. Let me get a microphone. When leaders say to you, "I really care about you," I mean, how do you feel that? How do you experience that when you know they really do versus when they're just kind of saying they do?
What I feel, if they care about me.
Yeah, if you know they really care. When they really care. And it's not just, every leader says they care. How do you know they really do?
They tell me and they show me, and then I feel like I want to do more for work.
Okay.
If it's a good leader and
Yeah.
they tell me that, I always there for them when they need me.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
I like it. Good. Petter, same question to you. How does the values, what's the most important value, number one question. Number two question, how does it iterate? How does it manifest? How do you make it tangible?
Wow. Well, I have to agree with Nina of that care and trust. I think that's really important. But then how to do that in the everyday work life? I think that's a challenge also for a CEO in management. I think it's how can we show our employees that we really care, because we do. And I think that's something that I struggle with each and every day, I think, because I really, it's just as Nina said, I really care about all my employees. I want them to be happy, to be safe, to think that the workplace is a really good place to be and to excel. So how can I feel that they can be satisfied, that I trust them? How can I show that each and every day? I think that's a challenge, really. And I don't really have a good answer for that. I think it's just being honest, having the conversations, try to talk to them more or less each and every day. And we're kind of a small organization. We're smaller than String and Rise, so I should have the opportunity to do that each and every day. But I'm not so good at that. Sorry, but I try to.
Please.
Yeah.
No, you? Yeah.
No, but I think it's that feeling of sometimes you feel like you're never enough, like you don't have time for it. You want to have more time. You want to set aside more time for showing the people. But the thing is that when it's genuine, when that care is genuine, I think that it kind of it comes naturally when we make decisions in the everyday life. If it's not genuine, like, yeah, we should care about our people, that's, I've heard it's important. Then you have to, think about it, and then it's, you add another layer on top of your task that, I have to care about the people too. But when it's genuine, I think it's just there.
Yeah, I think you have to rely on that, more or less. But yes, and each and every day you do this micromanagement decision, and in everything you do in that, you need to get back to the values that you have. I think that's because I'm not the one that goes on and tell everyone about our values each and every week for our employees. We do a couple of times a year when we sit down and we talk about the values of diversity. But back at the management teams, we kind of do that in every situation, every decision we have to take. Then we look back at the values that we have, and we kind of like, well, is this in sync in what we've decided? So, but still, I think it's a challenge to make me feel each and every day to communicate that to my employees. And that may be something, well, as you say, it may become natural, but you always feel that you are not enough.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if most people kind of would think that they're leaders, because leaders typically project, I'm organized, I'm on top of everything, everything's going good. And they don't perceive their leaders to be like, gosh, I should have given more to my people today. But I'm going to come back. I have an interesting question for the audience pertaining to this. But Karin, how about you? If you had to, and it's not just one value, of course not, there's many, and we'll get to a couple more soon, but what would you put at the top of your Northern Star of values? What kind of guides the organization in you?
Yeah, I think I'm quite clear that I'm on Svante's line. Trust is the most important value. That if you don't have trust, then I don't talk about just the co-workers' trust to me. It's the co-workers' trust to each other and to leadership. How to do that in daily basis? I can relate to all this. You never enough, but trust. You cannot be on your own. You can't lead the company with trust on your own. Just you promoting trust. So including every co-worker in the business plan, for example. Agree on the values. What are we going to deliver? So we agreed it together. We take the decisions in leadership teams and with the information we have from our co-workers. And then run with that and don't think that you can do it on your own. Take help from the company, of the collaborators, but also from the community. Your initiative with the International Hub, for example. I could not get my collaborators or my staff to enjoy life in Örnsköldsvik. I can make sure that they have an interesting task at work. But they have family, they have kids, they need to like Örnsköldsvik. So I can bring them to places, but I can't bring 40 people to all different type of activities. That would be impossible. So I think join forces, and if you have interesting ideas like International Hub, for example, join that platform and make it work. And it's not enough, I think, to just say that, okay, I sponsor your initiative. I need to go out to my staff and say, right, what do you think about this? Are you interested? How do we promote this? And why are we in it? If my staff would not have given me positive response, I would have been out.
Sure, as you
so that's so join forces and do it together. That's
I agree. I mean, that's a value. Collaboration is a value, which is pretty high as far as I'm concerned as well. Let me kind of get some audience feedback in the sense that that's how they're perceiving values and kind of never enough. But how would you, on a kind of a personal level, when you feel like you're talking to, you want to have a value-based conversation and you have ideas, how does it get introduced into your organization? Or how do you initiate? Or have you ever felt frustrated that they weren't listening and weren't giving enough time?
Yes, of course, I have. I work in a very small company. It's just me and 2 more employees. And we are very independent, so we work very much on our own. And sometimes we don't even meet during the day because we're so busy.
So busy,
yeah. So, but, yeah, well, but we try to talk in between sessions and so on. But it's a challenge, definitely.
I think so too. I think it's everybody talks about values, and I think the next question is going to be an interesting one. And we have to admit to ourselves sometimes we fail. And what do we learn from that failure? And when did we disappoint ourselves with values that we didn't achieve? We've all been in companies. We've all been in companies like, God, that could have been a great company. That could have been a great company. They just didn't cross that divide. They got too stuck in making money. They got too distracted with reorgs and change, and they lost the plot. And that's very sad when that happens, and that's probably why we're not at those companies anymore, I guess. Good, thank you. So a question back to the panelist. Give me an example of when you feel you've failed those values, when you didn't live up to your values, when you thought, this is why it's fun for the audience. Like, wow, CEOs talking about their failure. I like this.
I cannot come up with an example right now, but give me some more time. But I think that I say to my team that I mean, of course, there will be failures. There will be times when I miss out on this, where they feel that, oh, I don't care, I don't see them, or whatever. And I think also to be open about that. And I say to them that at least I want you to know, I want you to feel that I actually care. Then there will be times when I'm too busy or things happen, and I will fail on you. And
own
and
it
to
and
talk
admit
about
it. Yeah,
it, yes.
yeah. And say, I didn't. I think there's a value. Failure has such a great value. There's nothing, we're going to get to vulnerability. There's nothing better than somebody say, you know what, I'm so sorry. I didn't deliver. And you do such a great job of delivering every day, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. How great would that be? How much trust would you build with a leader who tells you that to your face and really feels it? I think we should do that more. We're always so tough and strong. I'm looking at you, Edlund. And we want to be great managers and strong managers, but sometimes the best thing is to just let it all go and say, you know what, I didn't deliver. I think that would get you more traction and empathy and connectivity, and motivate those people more than trying to be strong all the time.
I have an example.
Please.
Or
No, go ahead.
no, but last year I was really late with the salary revision.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
like super late, and I said to the team, like, I'm so sorry about this. It's just not acceptable. And one of the guys, the representative from the union, he said to me, like, Nina, you tell us that we are the most important in the company, and now you have dragged this, and do you know that it doesn't send the right signal to the team? And I said to him, you're right, 100%, and I'm sorry.
And that's a strong leader. Some leaders would run from that and say, well, I did it, but let's make sure that, nobody knows about that, or I ignore it, I don't talk about it. That's very easy to do. But when you kind of go out there with that and say, this is how it happened, and I'm sorry, it's really very strong. You have one?
Yeah, I think, I work in a creative environment with a lot of creative people. And one of my challenges, I think, is to be able to see each and every one of the work they do, because creative people need some feedback on what they're doing. And I love to give them that, but the challenges we have is, now I have a really great management team, so I really rely on them, and they're the super best. I couldn't do without them, really. So I get a lot of help with talking to the employees and having these conversations. But still, I think, even in the management team, we are all creative. We work creatively with our clients. So I'm not just in a leadership role. I like to be working with clients. So I do that, about 50% of my time. And that gives me, the time left to be able to go around and talk to everyone and give them the credit that they need really for the work they're doing. And that is something that I miss out on, I'd say, each and every week. Because I think people in my organization, it's not that we just love to have, this creds and everything, but you need to have some feedback on creative work. So I think I miss out on that every week, really. And that's sad, because many times in the discussion that arises when I talk to my colleagues, that they might not feel, appreciated for the creative work that they do. And that just saddens me, really, because I really like to give them and have the conversation of all the great things that's happening. We talk about that a lot in the management. How can we more often talk about the work that we do in some manners that we can have, this constructive and feedback, and just give them the credit they need, because many times the work you just hammer it down on everything, and you can't really have the time to communicate. And
a lot of times people, when they ask for more money, they dive down into that. They really dug on that. And actually, it's not the money that's really their main focus. Money is the acknowledgement of their work. And if you're a great motivator and you can give them that, it's just as valuable as the money. People say, if I got great acknowledgement and great support, that would be almost as important as a raise. So it's interesting, if you're good at that, you can you can kind of, still be a small company and keep people going forward, which a lot of startups do. Karin, last question before we move to the next topic. I have an interesting one for you. One of the values that a lot of people, especially the millennials, and don't forget these 20 to 30 somethings, we're in a bit of a bubble here. This is a family town, and we're not capturing enough of our young people. When our kids grow up and they go off and they don't come back, and that's a threat. So we have to start thinking about these 20 and 30 somethings. What are they looking for? How are we going to bring them here? How are we going to keep them here? So to Karin, I have an interesting one for you. One of those values that a lot of young people are looking for is they want to change the world. It wasn't enough just to make money and kind of pay mortgages. I want to change the world. I want my work to matter. How do you deal with that when you know that's one of their values? How do you?
I think we are in a quite fortunate business, so to say, if looking at these type of people. We also want to change the world. Our main goal is to replace all fossil raw materials for renewables, and this is something that appeals to the younger generation. And to encourage them, I'm completely dependent on to bring the best ideas to the market. This is what we want to do. And how do we do this? Well, we have to have people from all sides of the world, all sizes and ages. And if we don't have this, all these different people, we don't get to the absolute best ideas. So I think young people of today want to deliver to the environment, and to do this, we need to have gender equality. We need to have a welcoming atmosphere and trust, so that you can bring all your ideas to the table and add to those ideas to actually make the best. Get the best ideas to the market. So involving all the people and being open and welcoming ideas is that you have this discussion, open it. That's my way forward for the young people.
I like it. I like it. Good. Okay, we're going to talk about the next topic. Slide, please. Trust. Again, everybody talks about trust. We've got to trust each other. And trust-based management, it's this new buzzy term. But of course it's true. Scandinavia is quite interesting. I mean, again, bring that global perspective. A lot of countries don't expect trust. They just want to go to work, they want to make their money. It's a very transactional kind of thing. In Scandinavia, you have a higher level, more developed relationship for what you expect from your job place, and you want trust. So you're very enabled. With that trust can become challenge, because if I trust your opinion is as strong as mine, maybe you win the argument and I don't. And that can be very difficult for managers. When you really have real trust in the organization, you flatten the heck out of it. And then you trust that your ideas are as good as mine, and who's going to win and how are we going to vet that. I find that a fascinating topic. I like the smiles in the room. It's like, yeah, exactly. And how do you as leaders deal with it? But I'm kind of curious about what people out here think about this topic. Give me a second. Who's my next victim? I'm going to go over here. Let's talk about trust from a very young person's perspective. When we talk about trust in a work situation, and I know you're young, how old are you now?
I'm turning 22.
Fine. Are you working right now, or are you still studying?
I'm not working corporate now. I'm studying, finishing off my bachelor's.
Fine. But it's good, because now you're kind of like, your expectation levels are very high.
Yeah.
You're fresh. What do you expect from trust when you kind of work in an organization?
I mean, I think especially for myself and for my generation, I think it's very important with, as you guys have been talking about before, not only filling some sort of quota with gender equality and stuff, but actually doing the work with also diversity and inclusivity and openness and being transparent, because I know a lot of people in my generation do not like the corporate secrets and stuff. We want to feel that there's a mutual trust in all aspects. And we also want to see the work get done for real and not just talk.
Love
I
this.
think.
I love this. There we go. That's what we're talking about. How about this as an idea? Wouldn't trust, the heart of trust, really has to be transparency. It really has to be, I will tell you everything. If we really trust each other, we share everything. No secret, no walls barred. So that's a perfect point. And Simon Sinek talks about this. Nina and I bonded on a book before I even started called The Infinite Game. How do you practice radical transparency to build trust? Karin.
Well, you need to be open with what you have got in your order books and what you need to have in your order books. I think this is something we do together. So there's not something for me to keep to myself. I wouldn't sort that problem myself, so why should I keep it to myself? I think all of these things. I was actually thinking about, you took a question for Nina and say a failure. I mean, I never got that, so don't think I never do any failures.
She paid me not to ask her the question. That's being transparent.
I mean, we have also had people leaving. Whether that's for the reason, I don't know. But for this particular person I'm thinking about now is where we failed the whole leadership team way. Is that this person was doing a great job in the lab. And this manager comes and says, "Oh, so what are you doing?" I said, so she knows exactly what's going on and exactly the biotechnology process that she's dealing with. But she doesn't know why, and she doesn't know who wants it. And that, I think, is very, very unmotivating. So there we failed. And I think this is a main... if I don't know why I am doing something, I am not motivated to do it. So I think this is very, very important. And so that we took up straight away. We had a talk, because it's not just the managers. We have project managers, we have managers, we have CEOs. Yeah, it's the whole way. So work with it, being open and say, okay, we need to make sure that you all know what you're doing. And most of the time, everybody knows what they're doing, but why they're doing it. Yeah. So what are you going to change in the world by doing this?
And why are you doing it, which is I want to change the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now I forgot your question.
Well, I mean, that was great.
Yeah.
Thanks. And it kind of leads into this kind of trust to, and it will lead into the next one, vulnerability. But I mean, when it comes to trust, where are the lines? As you say, you do share the books, you do share this, but of course there would be some things you wouldn't share. I mean, you wouldn't share, hey, by the way, we have a sexual harassment thing going on, and it's this person over there, and he, there would be things you wouldn't share, and there would be, and that's not a trust thing. Is that where does the line of trust versus, what's the word I'm looking for? Confidentiality, maybe. I don't know. Petter, what would be your kind of like? I want to trust everybody. I want to radically be transparent, but of course, there's some things I can't share.
We have a tool where we ask our staff all the different questions and uncomfortable questions where they can answer without anonymously.
Perfect.
Exactly. So then I am transparent with possible negative things that somebody has answered, and then we talk in small teams about these things. So how do we solve this, and what is it? Why have somebody answered this? Nobody knows who it is, but that something is itching somewhere. How do we solve it? But of course, you can't say it's that person or that
No,
person.
of course not.
And I
You shouldn't even know who that
I
person.
wouldn't know
Yeah.
if that person hadn't come to me, then I wouldn't know either. But that doesn't stop me from talking about it.
Was there something that kind of came up in those anonymous discussions, and a comment and this, that you felt, wow, that's going to be painful to share out?
We have some. We have a non-discrimination policy, and there is somebody that feel discriminated somehow. So then we've talked about it, and hopefully at the next round we won't have it. But and discrimination towards disability, and then you need to find what the disability is. If you have somebody in wheelchair, it would be easy. But
what's this? What is the disability we're talking about?
Yeah.
Can't exactly write back to the person's sakes.
No, exactly.
Tell me a little bit more.
No. So this is very important that we find the root of this and solve it. So.
Okay. Good. Nina.
No, but I'm thinking about this trust-based leadership, and these are just thoughts in my head. So I'm going to share it. But I think that if we look at, Peter's company, Devoseer, we talked about our agencies down in Stockholm. I think that trust-based leadership, when it comes to people, de som jobbar på tjänsteman. Nu får ni hjälpa mig med engelskan här. White collar people, thank you. I think it's not something new. I mean, we're talking about the new leadership. I don't feel it's so new. We've talked about that. But it isn't. And I think we've come a long way with that. But I'm leading an industry company, industrial company. And I feel that there's a difference between, I'm talking now in general, between how we trust people, white-collar people, compared to how we lead and how the trust when we talk about people working in production. And I think this is so interesting. And it's also very frustrating, I think, because when we talk about white collars, it's normal today that you have the possibility to work from home,
yes.
or you can. I leave at 3 o'clock today, or I come in later tomorrow, or we have this trust. Just talking about now working hours or where we work, but when it comes to production people, it's different.
You're so right. And to give you a setup on this, and I kind of underplayed Nina because of our relationship, but Stringo is a very interesting company. Again, high tech, biotech, creative economy stuff, and manufacturing. And Nina has been kind of a leader in one sense to say, production people, welders, painters, they have as much value as a white-collar person. Without those people doing their job, there are no white-collar people because there's no business. So they're super important, and we shouldn't have a two-tiered system. So I absolutely respect how she views that. And her father started the company and really gave her those values, and they're definitely lived in Stringo. And by the way, Stringo is this amazing company. They do a small part for the automotive manufacturing space, but my God, every customer in the world, Audi, Ferrari, you name it, buys this product. So these people that Nina is talking about, they're so critical and they're so undervalued. When is the last time innovation ever talked about welders? Never. These people get totally forgotten in the conversation about what we need in Örnsköldsvik. It's so wrong. It's what built this place. And I find it quite strange that we skew the conversation to this very high level. I want to get her thoughts over here because she looks like she's very engaged. What do you think about when you're hearing this?
Absolutely. It's a very important thing to discuss, because if we don't have anybody who works in production, then we don't have any chiefs or anyone who can go to work So it's something we really need to lift up and talk about.
Yeah, I'm glad you feel that way. I find it quite refreshing as well. Okay, let me round off this particular topic with one idea. Because of COVID, one positive thing that came out, of course, there was a lot of negative things and people died and got sick and all that, of course. But it changed our relationship to work, didn't it? I mean, the whole, how many people, do they even need to tell their leaders that they're coming in, or do they just join Teams calls? How many people don't even need to put anywhere that I won't be in the office today, blah, blah, blah. They just don't need to come in. They just join. How many people have that way of working? Yeah. I mean, it's pretty common now. And that's very generous. And you can work the days at home that you want to. That's real trust-based management. And it really is that way for a lot of people now. So that's refreshing. I think our relationship with trust-based management's gotten closer than it's ever gotten because of COVID and those years. Karin, how does it work in your company? Do they?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a trust-based relationship, and COVID was
a big driver of that.
It really was a check for me that I had my co-workers with me. Can they deliver without coming to the office? Yes, absolutely. We have wet work, laboratory work, and all of that has to be at work. You can't do it at home in the kitchen. that I wouldn't allow. But I think COVID really showed me that I have the most excellent people, staff at Rise Processum, and they deliver high above what we expect. And I think those that don't have that trust, they wouldn't manage through COVID. I am really happy with how that turned out, apart from all of the negative things, of course.
Now, and another perspective on that, and that is absolutely valid. That is the kind of the common sense way to look at these now. Now, there's another perspective, slightly different, still trust-based, and Nina has this, because she has a feeling of, yes, we should all kind of be working from home. It's all trust-based, but we should also be together. Describe that, Nina.
Yeah, our team is, we have our headquarters down in Nyland, a small village in Kramfors kommun, but we have team members in Gothenburg and in US, Japan, China. So we're already remote working. But as any other company during COVID or by the end of it, we also started to discuss, okay, but how will we continue with this after COVID? For me, it's just like you say, Karin, we also show that it's possible to deliver even if we work remotely. But I think that we have maybe a disease, I would say, in our community today, or in the world today, that we are very short-term in everything we do, and I think also with this home office policies, I think that short-term we have shown that it's possible to deliver. We continue with that, but I strongly believe, and this is just my feeling, but I strongly believe that long-term, it's important that we keep the team close together. And this is based on my values, and this is based on the type of company and company culture that I want to create. There's a diversity with that as well. So it's, based on what I want to create.
You have a manufacturing business, so whereas these kinds of businesses can be that way, and it's no problem. I think you have a manufacturing, you have to be there to make the stuff.
Absolutely, but it's not only that, it's also, we talk about trust, and I talked about, caring about each other, and I think, there's some, I can talk a lot about this, but, if, I believe that having a strong team, we need to have that trust, and we need to have that care. And I don't think it's possible to create that if we don't meet. If we just meet on, occasionally or once a week, or because I think that, this small talks by the coffee machine or having lunch together, and I know that your father is ill or your daughter is struggling in school, and we get to know each other and learn. I think that's when we start to care about each other as human beings. Like, okay, now I understand why you were an asshole yesterday, or why you've been so grumpy for a couple of weeks, because now I know about your daughter. And it may sound, but it's the essence of caring, that we know each other. And when we do, and we meet up, it's like, of course I'm gonna back you up. Of course I'm here to help. Of course we're working together as a team. So that's one way of looking at it. Of course,
it's nice to have a different, because the common wisdom and conventional wisdom is this, but I like that Nina has a different perspective on that as well. We have 5 minutes. I'm going to take the last slide. Go and move me over to vulnerability. This is a great one. And again, I know these people as leaders and friends and all that, but I think the commonality of their approach to leadership, which is very different than a lot of leaders. BAE, is there anybody from BAE in the audience? Good. I'm sure they have it's a very big company. It's the more conventional way you had to run companies. These are smaller, mobile, and they're thinking in different ways, and they've got to deal with the different kind of mindset of people. So I just think they're the new leadership. And I thought it was interesting because we were inviting Marie Scheder here as well from NITEC, and I went, wow, a lot of these new leaders are women. But then I realized that Petter, kind of as a man, kind of represents that feminine energy, because I think we're all a little bit masculine and feminine in our souls, right? That's how we are. And I think Petter kind of takes some of that new leadership and kind of, even though most of the time you see that in female CEOs, and that's a whole new rising chapter in our industrial history, but Petter represents that on a male level. So we come to the last one, which is vulnerability. And I love this, again, when we talked about failure, and Cotton was like, don't forget, I failed too. And, we want to share our vulnerabilities, because that's how you get people's trust, and that's how you get them to understand your values. Let's talk about vulnerability. Give me some examples of do you think vulnerability is something you want to show, practice, or do you think it just kind of happens? Petter.
No, I think it's super important. I know when I started as CEO for about 10, 12 years ago, I started to read a lot of things. You read theories, listen to TED Talks, and do the LinkedIn everything. You kind of feel like, well, perfect, I can just absorb everything about how being a leader. And in that, you kind of lost track of who you are. Me, who am I? So after a year or so, when listening to everything I wanted, you just become this great leadership, this leader. I almost forgot, I had to go back and say, well, I just have to lay everything aside. So, well, who's me, and who do I want to be in my leadership? I have to rely on myself in my leadership, because I can look at so many other CEOs and thinking, should be that guy or her, everything, and they do this and that, and they're so impressive. So in a way, I was just fed up with everything, because at the end of the day, all these theories started to conflict with each other. So you kind of like, okay, well, what's the top 10 secrets of being a great CEO? So more or less, I was trying to, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to rely on myself. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to have the leadership that I want to, based on me. And if that's not enough, well, then maybe I should do something else. I don't know, but then, of course, I had this great management team that I work with every day that's just magnificent in this way. So, but I think in that, I also realized that you have to be honest and talking about trust, and you talk about having the more transparency towards the colleagues, and as much as you can. I think that's a vulnerability is a big thing, that you can actually show how you feel about the different things and how it's been affecting the company. Because I can see many times the company has some kind of a round something that you start kicking around. You want that to just roll, you know, as a company to roll in a good way, and then you have something that different these shapes. You have someone leaving, someone's coming, and the shape of this company always has a kind of dynamic, you know, form, and it kind of sometimes it just stops, and you have to kick it again one more time, and every time they do that change, you want to be transparent as early as possible with all the colleagues. And I mean, it's a challenge too, because as you said, you can't mention all and everything that's happening, but you can do that in a way. So trying to just show them that, okay, now we're in a situation with a company that's quite tough. This is happening. This shape is not round anymore. It's something happening. We need to take care of that, and be able to do that quite early in the stage, and not just solve anything in the management team and say, okay, now we have a new solution and we're going to do it like this. I think it's been really good for us to address that quite early, to say, well, this is a challenge. We don't have the solution right now. We have no idea how to do this, but we're in this phase. And even though you can't talk about everything, you can still talk about this being an issue, this being a challenge. And they can have some understanding for us
100%.
trying to solve it and try to think about that.
I think when management teams or companies go through a rough time, got 2 minutes, go through a rough time, the best thing they can do is, guys, we're going through a rough time. Looking kind of bad on the money side, but I commit to you that I'm going to try my best to make sure everybody still has a job, but boy, we got to work together to go through this time. Nothing worse than somebody waiting too long to have that conversation. And then they show up and they say, we have a problem, we're going to have to lay some people off. What? Why didn't we have this conversation a year ago? We could have worked together to do something. Nina, you got 30 seconds, vulnerability. Sorry. We had so much fun talking for an hour. I don't know, we're almost there. Go. Show your vulnerability.
No, it's too, I need more time. I was going to tell you a beautiful story.
Do it.
Okay, give me 2 minutes.
Go for it.
No, but
Is that okay for everybody? Go.
Okay, you can leave if you want to. No, but a small story about vulnerability, because we hired a new guy to the management team. It can be 7 years ago, maybe. And he came from an organization with a very different company culture than we had or tried to create at Stringo. A very, if I'm going to be a little bit tough, but fear-based, like if I show vulnerability, I will get stabbed in my back, that kind of culture. So I understood that I need to put a lot of focus now to make sure that we find this trust within the management team. And I think that when you can show each other, when you can be vulnerable in front of each other, that's reflect that there's trust in the team. But we were going to Japan 6 months later together because we had a big quality issue at one of our most important customers, Toyota. And we had to go there to kind of save this relationship with this customer. And we sat it was at Toyota headquarters in Nagoya. We sat in a big lobby. Everybody was walking around in their super nice suits, and everything was just so perfectly designed. And we sat there and waited. And most of the time, we were talking like all the time. But we were just quiet, waiting. And this new guy said that after a while, like, guys, I'm so damn nervous for this meeting. And the other guy just put his arm around him and be like, don't worry, we're doing this together. And I was just, almost started to cry. And just by telling it, because for me, that's when I felt like, okay, but now, we did it with this team. And I think it starts with the leaders, that we need to have that trust and to show vulnerability to each other, to try to, spread it in the rest of the organization.
Good story. Karin, last one to you.
Oh, the last one is always difficult.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm with Nina that we need to show who we are and what we feel at certain points. By showing that you are touched, that you are affected by, if you have a problem in a team, it affects me, and I feel it, and that you need to show to your team, to your management team, but also to the whole staff, to get the whole feeling out to everybody. I think that's how you come closer together. I know the comment I had before with the COVID, we also have teams at work. I mean, we build the teams, but I feel that our distant teams got closer. So it's we have somehow got closer to Stockholm during COVID than we were before. And we're not an island anymore.
No, that's nice. That's nice. Okay, that's going to summarize it. But one last thought. Don't forget when people say, oh my God, values, trust, vulnerability. You guys are hippies. Don't forget, these are incredibly successful growing companies. They're growing like 20, 30% on every regard. The profits are good. They're successful capitalist companies. And I would say that the new leadership is part of why they're succeeding, not because of it, or in spite of it, I guess. So just keep that in mind. I hope it was a good conversation today. Thanks, guys. It was so much fun. And thank you for the presenters.